everyone. Great to see so many people on here again. It's, as Paul mentioned, been a busy week for us and an exciting week to come out with all of these announcements. And this one is as exciting as everyone before it, as we welcome some new folks officially into the PWHL. As has been reported, we had a pretty extensive process in order to find the best candidates we could to lead these teams. We know that's an important role. These people will work really collaboratively with Annie, Chris, myself, and all the hockey ops team as we build the league together. So we were looking for people that brought great hockey knowledge to the table, that brought a collaborative approach, that brought a real emphasis on culture and leadership, that they could help build out their rosters in their own markets. And we were very fortunate to find some incredible people that we are really excited about. So before we go too much further into that, I do want to introduce Annie Cammins, who's our VP of Hockey Operations, and Chris Burkett, who's our VP of League Operations and Compliance. And I'm going to let Annie talk to the process, the hiring process we did. Chris and Annie were both really integral to the process along with myself. So I'll turn it over to you, Annie, to talk about the process.
Thanks, Jayna. Hello, everybody. Nice to be with you all today. We're finally here hiring our wonderful 6 GM. So as Jayna said, I'll talk a little bit quickly about the process and then hand the mic over to Chris. We worked with a company called Bloom Sports Partners and Barry McNeil probably about 2 months ago now, and we really dove in, maybe a little longer than that. Time flies these days, but really dove in and found well over 60 candidates from different backgrounds, different industries, different markets. And we really wanted to make an impact here being the first year of this league. And like Jayna had mentioned, it was very important that we found candidates from all different skill sets, different markets that bring a wealth of knowledge so we can work together to make this league the best it could be. I think that the process was very rigorous, and at the end, we just found that these 6 candidates were the most dynamic and can really bring the hockey league to the next level that it deserves. Chris, do you want to talk a little bit more? Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Annie. Yeah, very exciting day. I think, more than just general managers, this group of 6 are foundational builders of the new league. It was seen through that lens, and we were looking for leaders that could live up to the promise of Billie Jean King's vision and Jayna's vision to build culture and leadership and be able to do that on day one. And as Annie and Jayna indicated, we were looking for leaders that brought different skill sets to the table to be part of this exciting build phase, and who can contribute both in their local markets, but to the overall success of the league. And so, as Annie said, I think this group of 6 have inspired each of us, and it's incredible to be able to announce them today.
Thanks, Chris and Annie. So I want to share that obviously today's a big day. Free agency will open at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And although we're announcing our GMs today, you can be sure that many of them have been preparing for days leading into this. We have an incredible amount of confidence in this group that they are going to hit the ground running at 1 p.m. today. This is a competitive group of people that is going to make this process over the next 10 days really exciting and really fun for all of us, including all of you, to follow along. And I think make it a really special process for the players. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that this is going to be an incredible moment for our players to be a part of something like this, where they will have general managers reaching out to them and trying to secure them within their organizations because they believe they can contribute to successful championship teams. So it's a really exciting moment and time that's going to open at 1 p.m. today. And we couldn't be more thrilled with the 6 general managers that we announced today. So before I open to questions, I just want to express a thanks to our 6 GMs. So Danielle Marmer, Natalie Darwitz, Danielle Sauvageau, Pascal Daou, Mike Hirschfeld, and Gina Kingsbury, who are going to be incredible leaders that are going to work together to build this league alongside us.
Thanks very much, Jayna, Annie, Chris. This time we'll take questions. We do have a few minutes to do so. I'll look for your digital hands and call upon you individually. Please unmute, introduce yourself, including your media outlet, and proceed. start with John Worrell, please.
Thanks, Paul. And this is for Jayna. Nice seeing you again in another short little while. But the vision going back to the CWHL was always to groom women, in part, to take on executive and coaching positions. What was that like in this process, seeing that vision come to fruition with this league?
Well, I would say that, our goal here was to bring the most qualified people to the table. And we actually didn't discuss gender as it related to who we were going to select as candidates. But as you see, the candidates that did rise up, we have 4 women and 2 men, and those were simply the best candidates. So I think without having to put any limits on who we were going to hire, we knew that we had strong female and male candidates, and it was really about finding the best ones that fit into each market.
And just as a follow-up, how quickly do you think Jayna and Natalie Darwitz are going to renew their rivalries as executives?
I think it's already happened. I think, as I mentioned, this group of general managers are all very competitive. And I think in many ways, we're going to have to hold them back to some extent, but they're also very respectful of one another and the experience it's brought to the table. And another key point for us was that they're going to assist us in hockey ops. They have skills that maybe we don't have at the moment. And this is going to be an incredibly collaborative effort, much like it is with the players. And they're going to bring skills to the table that are going to help one another and sharing best practices to grow each team.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. Reminder to unmute yourself. Jared Book, you could please unmute and proceed.
Hi, Jared Book, Eyes on the Prize. Question for Jayna, just a quick housekeeping one. Is the plan to disclose the draft list once the entry period ends?
Yeah, I think after free agency, we will likely disclose that list. Yeah, so everybody can be aware of who is eligible and who is declared. At this point, obviously, the declaration process hasn't closed yet, but I can assure everyone that we've had an overwhelming response of players that have already declared.
And when it comes to Danielle Sauvageau, a lot of talk have been about how much work the players have put in to make this league possible. She's probably been one of the builders who've been around. Obviously, you played for her. What's it like to give her that news a few days ago?
Yeah, obviously Danielle and I have a long history, and she has a long history of Gina Kingsbury and many others because she's been around the game for so long. It was really great to share that news with Danielle. She's as passionate as everybody is that's involved in this. She's done a lot to grow the game, in our country, but certainly in Montreal and with the center recently. And so it was definitely a rewarding conversation to be able to share with her that she was a successful candidate in Montreal. And I think we're all excited to have her at the table and know she's going to bring a wealth of knowledge to our group.
Lance Hornby, please.
Hi, Jayna. It's Lance Horn with the Toronto Sun. Can I ask about your relationship with Gina and how important it is to have a person who has her sort of background be able to jump into a job like this?
Yeah, of course. Gina and I obviously were teammates for many years with the national team, and obviously have that relationship. And over the last number of years, I've had the opportunity to watch Gina rise as she did through Hockey Canada. She's got ultimate amount of respect from all the players. I think everyone within the hockey industry realizes the type of talent that Gina is. And to be quite honest, I didn't know if we would be able to get her to come over here and join our group, but I can say that we're super excited to have her. And again, much like our other candidates, she brings so much to the table, and she's going to be a big part of standing this league up, not only just her team in Toronto. So I couldn't be more happy to have her on board with us.
Thank you. And to follow up, with all due respect to all 6 teams in the league, how important is it that Toronto and New York make a good run of it? Obviously, big media centers that could help your league with competitive teams that make some headlines.
I mean, obviously, every market is important for us. We've got to make sure every team is incredibly successful, and so I don't know if we want to identify different markets, but I will say we've got competitive GMs in place that are going to continue to push one another to be better and better. And so, if that's the case, Gina's going to get pushed by a lot of people, as is Natalie Darwitz. But I think, for us, it's really about making sure that we're growing this together, and every market is going to be critical to the success of the league.
Thank you.
Take a couple more. Simon Olivier, please.
Good morning. The question is for Jayna. Actually, maybe it's something you said last week in the last press conference. Sorry, I wasn't there. Are the GMs going to manage only the hockey operations, or are they going to manage all the operations? Like, are they going to hire staff for, I don't know, marketing or support staff and everything, or is it only hockey related?
They'll have some local business support within, their umbrella. They're leading each organization, so they will have say in those people. We have an entire commercial and business team along with the PWHL that will help support in putting people in those roles, and we'll have league level support. But the GMs will also have local level support that they'll have a strong say in who those people are.
Thanks a lot.
Alex, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time today. Alex Azzi with The Messenger. Jayna, curious if you can shed some light on any of the logistics or rules about the free agency process. You mentioned it starts at 1 p.m. today. Are there any restrictions about how these GMs are reaching out to players, how many players, if players are allowed to get in touch with them? Also, I think in the press release, it mentioned that the GMs are responsible for hiring the head coaches. I imagine none of those positions are currently filled, but please correct me if that assumption is wrong. But just curious if only the GM has to sign off on those free agency signings at this point.
So at this point, it's the GM's decision on those players. They are all, I think, well down the line of securing their head coaches. Nobody is officially signed on as a head coach yet, but I think they all have people in mind, or at least, a short list of people in mind. So that's an ongoing process. When free agency opens today, they are welcome to contact any player they want. We've provided players' agents contact information if they have an agent. Otherwise, they have the players' contact information. I anticipate agents and players will be contacting them, so they're welcome to talk to as many players as they want. Once they sign a player, that comes through the hockey ops department to be approved. And once that's approved, that player will be removed from the available player list from other teams. So that's the process at this point in time.
And then just one follow-up. You mentioned almost said last week, 2 days ago, the compassionate waiver. Does that take up one of those 3 free agency spots?
No, so players can apply for a compassionate circumstance waiver as part of their declaration process. Those decisions will not be made until the end of the free agency period, because we don't think that should impact a potential free agent signing. Once free agency closes, we'll be looking at those waivers and making decisions on them, and GMs will be aware in advance of the draft if any waivers have been approved and if there's any players that will be placed in their markets for tryouts.
And who is it that is approving that at the league level of which players are getting those?
That'll be myself and Annie and Chris.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We're going to try to get through the remaining hands. Ian, Jean-Francois, and Simon, and then we're going to wrap things for Jayna. Please limit to one question only. Go ahead, please, Ian.
Hi, Jayna. Ian Kennedy from the Hockey News. I'm just wondering, with a singular owner, it seems there, the challenges of competition between general managers and for a championship this first year, it's a little bit different than in other leagues. I'm wondering how you think the inter-team trades, the competition level of all these general managers will play out in forming their own independent team identities and pushing to win the first championship this year.
Yeah, I think, as I said in the outset, these are all competitive people by nature, and they all are going to want to win, and they're going to want to build their franchises. And if they want to continue to secure the best players that want to be a part of their team, then they're going to have to build an environment that players want to be in. So I think there's lots of reasons for them to try to rise above the rest. With that being said, there is an emphasis on growing the league and the collaboration that's going to occur. And we're going to try to, share those best practices to help each other. But I have no concerns on the level of competitiveness that's going to exist between these general managers and the teams they put in place.
Thank you.
Jean-Francois, please.
Yes, my questions, hello, also for Jayna. I'm looking at the 6 GMs that have been appointed, and a majority of them are originally from their local market. How important was that for you and for the league? And I'll come back with my follow-up question after that.
I would say that wasn't taken into consideration. And when you look at the 6 general managers in place, I think 3 of the 6 are in their local markets and 3 others come from different markets. So certainly wasn't a priority for us. It was about getting the best people and putting them in the right markets for both them and the league. And sort of, we kept calling it a puzzle to try to make sure we could keep the top 6 candidates and make sure they fit into the 6 markets.
And at least 2 of the GMs, Danielle Sauvageau and Jayna, are already involved in other organizations. Université de Montréal for Danielle, and Jayna is still with Hockey Canada. Will they be allowed to continue their respective engagements with those other organizations, or will they have to be 100% with their clubs?
Well, this is a full-time role for all of them. That's what they've signed up for. Now, there are certain scenarios individually of opportunities that they can stay involved with. And you can speak to Jayna further. Jayna will have some involvement with Hockey Canada at the senior women's level, but has had to step away from some of her other responsibilities there. So I think each candidate's a little bit different, but this is absolutely their full-time employment, and their priority moving forward is with this league.
Merci.
Last one for Jayna from Simon, please.
Thanks, Paul. Morning, Jayna. Simon Hopkins from the Ice Garden. We haven't heard any of the team names or team logos that are to come. Is that something the league's been working on, or are the GMs going to be responsible for picking those names and building that brand identity for each of their own teams?
It's certainly discussions that are underway at the league level, and we're trying to, as we've said in the initial press conference, work sort of multiple paths at the same time. And so we have a lot of ongoing work and work in progress. And that's one of those things. Now that we have GMs on board and they're part of building this league, they will, inevitably be part of those discussions moving forward. So I anticipate they'll have some input into what direction we go with those.
But they won't be the sole decision makers with that process.
No, it'll be a league decision, but as I said, with their input.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks very much, Jayna and Annie and Chris for your time this morning, and again to all of our media for your participation. We're going to transition now to our GM segments, and I'm going to begin by welcoming in Danielle Marmer, the new general manager of the PWHL.